For today's independent math task, you'll need three materials. You'll need a pencil, a blank sheet of paper, and some colored pencils, crayons, markers, or whatever coloring tools you have around. If you need to go gather those materials, pause the video, go find those things, and come back when you're all set. All right, so you should have gathered your materials by now. Remember, you needed to have a pencil, you needed to have some coloring tools, and you needed to have a blank sheet of paper. So I have a blank sheet of white paper because we have a whole bunch of blank white paper in our classroom. But if you don't at home and you need to use a different color, that is totally fine. If you only have scratch pieces of paper with things on the back side, that is also totally fine. Whatever you need to do, as long as it is a blank sheet on one side, could be binder paper, whatever you need, okay? So with this blank sheet of paper, you're actually going to partition it into fourths. So I'm just going to start by folding my sheet of paper into halves horizontally, okay? So I make my crease nice and straight, and then I open it up. Okay, so then I have two shares, and then I actually need four, so I'm going to go ahead and fold it now vertically. You could have left it folded and then folded it again. It wouldn't have changed the number of shares that you got at the end. All right, so it's not perfect, but it will work. So you should have a blank sheet of paper with four equal shares now. And then what you're going to do is you're going to go through each square and you're going to label number 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I'll snap a picture so that you can see what I mean, and you'll see it in the next slide. So here's an example of a page that has been folded into 4 parts and then labeled in the top left corner, 1, 2, 3, and 4. This is an example of a vertical version. Some of you might have done it horizontally, in which case your sheet of paper will look more like this one. Notice that each square is still labeled with the numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4 in the top left-hand corner, and it doesn't matter if you did it vertically or horizontally, either way is going to work just perfectly for this activity. All right, so now that you've gone ahead and you've partitioned your sheet of paper into fourths and you've labeled them with 1, 2, 3, and 4, it's time for us to get started with our independent math task. So I'm going to give you very specific directions and I'm going to tell you exactly which box I would like for you to complete that part of the task in. So listen very closely to that direction. And also, if you need to pause the video at any point to catch up, just go ahead and push that pause button and then push play when you're ready to keep going, okay? All right. In box number one, find box number 1. You are going to draw an array with 6 columns, and each of those columns should have 2 objects. So here, I'm not telling you how many rows to make, but if you know how many objects belong in each column, you'll naturally make the correct number of rows. So I'll repeat that direction again. Draw an array with 6 columns, and each of those columns should have 2 objects. Next, write an addition equation to explain what's happening in the rows. Next, write an addition equation to explain what's happening in the rows. Don't forget to add in the total. Let's move to box 2. We're at box 2 now. For box 2, it says, draw an array with 5 columns and 5 rows. Draw an array with 5 columns and 5 rows. Next, write an addition equation to find the sum of the objects in the rows. Write an addition equation to find the sum of the objects in the rows. So all of the rows combined. I feel like you guys are crushing this already. We're only halfway through, but I can feel it. You guys are doing really well. Keep up the good work. All right, moving to box 3, halfway done. It says, draw an array with 4 columns, and each of those columns should have 3 objects. So draw an array with 4 columns, and each of those columns should have 3 objects. Next, write an addition equation to explain what's happening in the rows. Write an addition equation to explain what's happening in the rows. Don't forget to include the total or the sum. Okay, last section, box 4. Box 4. In box 4, create an array with 20 total objects. So I'm not going to tell you how many rows and how many columns to make. That is up to you to figure out. But your array should have 20 total objects. 20 total objects. There's definitely more than one way this array could look. So if you're feeling like, wait, I could do it like that, or I could do it like this, or there's this way, that's totally normal, and that's absolutely fine. Just pick one of the ways. There's more than one way. When you're all set with your array, go ahead and write an addition equation to represent the total number of objects in the array. Remember, when we are working with arrays, there's 2 different equations that we can come up with. I want for you to pick one of them. All right. Now don't forget, this independent math task is kind of like a mini test. So make sure that you submit this to me on Seesaw by following the link in Google Classroom, and I'll be sure to check out your work and give you some feedback today.